The last thing, a beautiful example, for example, the law and jurisprudence of Islam requires you to perform your wudu, to stand facing towards Kaaba and pray according to the commandments of Sharia. You have done everything, so according to Sharia, according to Islamic law, your prayer, your salat is complete. So I want to explain what is the link between the Sufism and the Sharia or the fiqh. Fiqh says, Islamic law and jurisprudence says, your prayer, your salat is kamil. Tasawwuf, Sufism says, not yet. Not yet. Now you ask, why my prayer is not yet complete and perfect? Sufism says that you are facing towards Kaaba, but your heart was not facing towards Allah. So fiqh is interesting to put you straight facing towards Kaaba, and tasawwuf is interested to put your heart straight facing toward Almighty Allah, the Rabb of Kaaba. So if your bodily, this face is toward Kaaba, your salat is perfect according to fiqh. And if your heart is facing towards Rabbul Kaaba, the Lord of Kaaba, then your salat is perfect according to tasawwuf, Sufism. Sufism fulfills the requirement of the purity and sincerity of your intention. Purity and sincerity of intention is never the subject of Islamic law. I am saying a very significant thing. Take up the fiqh, Kutubul fiqh, Hanafi fiqh, Shafi'i fiqh, Maliki fiqh, Hanbali fiqh, Jafari fiqh, Salafi fiqh. You may take any book of fiqh in your hands and read the chapters. They will start from Tahara, Ghusl, Wudu, this and that. Then they'll come to the prayer, Salat and Som and Zakat and Hajj, and then all halal and haram. Everything religious and secular would be mentioned there. I'm telling you a very significant point. And last, there are thousands. I have delivered 100 lectures, and every lecture, every episode of 1 hour on this subject of Sufism. 100 lectures. And every lecture is of 1 hour duration. It means 100 hours on concept of Sufism. 100 hours on this particular subject. So I am closing this subject by saying, you go to the books of fiqh, the books of fiqh, the books of Sharia, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, Jafari, Salafi, anything. They will start from purity. Purity, from ghusl, from wudu, from cleanliness of your clothes, cleanliness of your body. Then they will start the matter of adhan and salat, then zakat and hajj and so on, onwards, so far and so forth. No single book of fiqh of any school of law will discuss the matter of purity of intention. Purity of intention. No book of law will ever discuss the subject of sincerity, al-ikhlas. No book of fiqh will ever discuss the subject of closeness and nearness of Allah, achievement of the pleasure of Allah. All these subjects which deal with your heart, which deal with your intention, with your niyyah, purity of heart, purity of thought, purity of ideas, sincerity, nearness of Almighty Allah, love of Almighty Allah, your heart submitting to Almighty Allah, seeking for His pleasure, rida of Allah, the pleasure of Almighty Allah, nearness of Almighty Allah. All these subjects you will never ever see in a single book of fiqh, maybe Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, Jafri, Salafi, any book, you will never see these subjects over there. And the question is that Holy Prophet says, Innamal a'malu bin niyyat. All your acts depend upon your niyyah, your intention. If every act and acceptability of every act or rejectability of every act completely depends upon your niyyah, the hidden thing, the motive, the intention which is hidden in your heart. Are you committing the act of riyah? You are doing this act to show somebody else? Or you are doing this just for sake prayer of Almighty Allah? This is the sole criterion on the basis of which your acts are going to be accepted or your acts are going to be rejected. But you will never ever find this particular concept of the prayer of Allah, the niyyah of Allah, the ridwanullah, Allah's prayer, his or seeking Allah's prayer, sincerity, ikhlas of niyyah. These subjects you will never see in the books of fiqh. So where will you find these subjects? These subjects have been dealt by Sufism, by tasawwuf, by spiritualism. And Holy Prophet says that all acts depend upon your niyyah, and niyyah is not subject of fiqh. Dependability of acts is based on the purity of niyyah, and purity of niyyah is not the subject of fiqh, of law. This is the subject of Sufism and tasawwuf and spiritualism. So it means every act which is away from spiritualism and tasawwuf and Sufi path, that is not able to be accepted in the eyes of Almighty Allah. So zahir, connecting zahir and batin, connecting zahir and batin, this is the only way how you get Almighty Allah's pleasure. So Holy Prophet ﷺ prepared a full-fledged group of individuals of Ashab al-Suffa, and they were specialized of Sufism. Ashab al-Suffa, they were specialized on Sufism, on spiritualism, on spirituality, and they were always busy in cleansing their inner self and developing. So jurisprudence emerged out of that, logic emerged out of that, philosophy emerged out of that, sociology emerged out of that, embryology emerged out of that. So all various religious and secular sciences emerged from Quran through the fountain of Al-Hikmah. All religious sciences, juridical sciences, jurisprudential sciences, and legal sciences, these sciences emerged from Quran through the fountain of Yu'allimukumul Kitab. So recitation of Quran, of Holy Prophet's act, created Qurra, the Qaris. The legal interpretation of Quran created jurists and scholars and ulama in the ummah. And wisdom, hikmah, created the philosophers and scientists and interpreters and intellectuals for the ummah, so that Islam, the deen of Islam, may be interpreted and reinterpreted and presented and reinterpreted and presented in a logical way, in a scientific way, in a methodological way, in a jurisprudential way, according to the times of various ummah. Now these were two sources. Now come to the second source which I left. Yatlu alaykum ayatina wa yuzakkikum. I took first and third. Tilawatul ayah and talimul kitab wal hikmah. I have taken two. Now we come to the second thing. Quran says that this is again the duty of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What? Yuzakkikum. He purifies your inner selves. He purifies your inner selves. So those companions And those followers among the Ummah of Holy Prophet, those who specialized in recitation of Quran, they became Qaris and they became Hafiz and Quranic reciters. Those who specialized in Ta'limul Kitab, they became the jurists and the lawyers of Islam and A'immah. Those who specialized in Hikmah of Quran, they became the Muslim philosophers, they became Muslim scientists, they became the logic specialists. And those who specialized in Yatlu alaykum ayatina wa yuzakkikum, and he purifies your inner selves. He purifies your inner self. So outer things are finished. Now this is a concentration or your inner part of personality. He purifies not your bodies. Your nufus. Qad aflaha man zakkaha. He is the successful person who has purified his soul. So now he purifies the souls. He takes bad likings, wishes, lusts, greeds out of your soul. He purifies your inner self from the inner existence of sins. And he puts Allah's love in your soul and in your spirit. And he puts the nearness of Almighty Allah. He gives the taste of nearness of Almighty Allah to your soul and heart. So this act of purification of self, tazkiyah, qad aflaha man zakkaha wa qad khaba man dassaha. The one who has purified his inner self, he is really successful person. And the one who couldn't purify it, he may be a scholar, he may be a exegesis specialist of Quran, he may be a jurist, he may be a speaker, he may be a preacher, he may be anything. But if his batin, his soul is not purified, he is not on a right track. He is not saved. He is not successful. So that's why the second prophetic obligation was mentioned, yuzakkikum tazkiyatun nufus. So those who carried out among the companions of Holy Prophet, among their followers, among their successors, among the Ummah, those who carried out the function of self-purification because of tazkiyah and safa. Self-purification means safa'ul qalb, purification of heart, purification of soul. So because of this safa, the word tasawwuf came into existence. And those who became specialists of purification of heart and soul, they were known as Sufis. Those who became specialists in Quranic recitation, they were known as Qaris, Qurra. Those who became specialists in Quranic interpretation and Hadithic interpretation, they were known as jurists and ulama and fuqaha. Those who became specialists of hikmah, they were known as philosophers and hukama. And those who became specialists in inner purification of heart and soul, they were known as Sufiya. So it means in the same way as the ulama are successors of Holy Prophet, through the channel of yu'allimukumul kitab, as the hukama, the philosophers, the scientists are the followers of Holy Prophet, through the channel of al-hikmah, as the hufaz and qurra, Quranic reciters are the followers and servants of Holy Prophet, through the channel of yatlu alaykumul kitab, tilawatul ayat. In the same way, the Sufis, the saints, the awliya and Sufiya, they are true followers of Holy Prophet through the fountains of tazkiyatun nufus. And the fifth, yu'allimukum ma lam takunu ta'lamun. When their inner selves become purified, then Almighty Allah reveals His secrets unto them. Their secrets are unveiled. Then they start knowing the hidden secrets. And from Sufi, they become Arif. So Ashabu Sufa, this was the group of Sufiya, the Sufis among the companions of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ashabu Sufa. And the same people, these were in the time of companions, in the time of their followers, tabi'een. Imam Hassan Basri, a great tabi'i, says that I met a Sufi, and you can find in every authentic book. Imam Hassan al-Basri, the great tabi'i, who was born in the days of Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, 20 Hijri he was born. He says, I met a Sufi performing tawaf around the Kaaba. Imam Hassan Basri says, Ra'aytu Sufiyan yatufu bil Kaaba. He was performing tawaf of Kaaba. I saw him, I wanted to help him financially. I wanted to give him something. I took some dinars and tried to put in his hands, and he didn't accept. He said, Allah is sufficient for us. So those who have made Allah sufficient in their life, they are Sufis. And Sufis are from safa of qalb, purification of heart, purification of soul, purification of inner self.